What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nestler with Impact Results. And look, we bring exciting guests to you that are doing exciting things in the motorcycle, sometimes the cycling space, and let them tell you their stories. We got a great guest for you today. Before we dive in, I want to tell you about RacerX's promotion that they have going on right now. They still have the Ethica RacerX themed undies promotion going on. It's strangely popular. It's 50. I do that every time, Josh. $56,000 value. It's not quite that. It's a $56 value. You can get it for just $30. Men, women, youth sizes available. And man, they're super comfortable. Everybody knows and loves Ethica. And they got some awesome stories. Everything from All Things In Badly, talking about the Eli Tomac Monster Energy Cowie split and looking back at some of the other breakups that have happened. Ryan Villapoto's brand new old school vibes, some really good stuff. So be sure to support the magazine. They're the ones that allow us to bring these really cool shows to you. All right. Our guest today, somebody that he might take the cake as the nicest individual that we've had on the show, the nicest client that we have at Impact. We got Mitch Robinson from iRide. Man, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story. It's the epitome of a moto fan trying to be as successful as possible and doing his own thing and carving his own path and being an entrepreneur in the sport that he loves. And I love that. So that's why I wanted to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Luke. And thanks so much for the invite, buddy. This is, believe me when I say the pleasure is all mine. It's an amazing experience. Like I listen to your podcast and I learn a ton from it. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy to me that I'm sitting here doing this, but it's awesome. I thank you so much.
No, it's awesome, man. It's cool to have you on. So let's jump in. So where did you get started in the sport? Let's start there.
You know what? I've been asked that a few times over the years, and I wish I could remember what specific thing it was that got me into dirt biking. But literally from my earliest memories, I was just absolutely overcome with motocross in general. You know, all I ever wanted was a dirt bike, and you know, growing up, I'd see McGrath or something like that, and like he was my hero, right? And so I'd have posters of him on my wall and stuff. And just from my earliest memories, that's all I can remember is loving dirt bikes. So, you know, I asked my parents once, I'm like, did I see a dirt bike somewhere, or like, where did this even come from? Because none of my family rides at all. Yep. None of them have anything to do with motocross or motorcycles or anything. It's completely outside any of their wheelhouse. So, you know, I'm not sure what that initial thing was. I wish I knew what it was, but yeah. I just, from the earliest memories I have, I absolutely loved it. And it just, even now, you know, going on 35 years or more, it's still, the fire still burns just as much as it did when I was just a little kid, if not more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I feel you. I'm the same way. My parents are both school teachers, and my dad never rode a dirt bike, and my mom obviously wasn't, you know, didn't grow up going to motorcycle races. So yeah, it's interesting getting into the sport and, you know, kind of your parents not having any involvement with that, just finding your own way in. Man, it's cool to see you do your own thing. And I mean, there are a lot of people that love the sport and get involved in the sport by working for other companies and are super successful with it. But when you find somebody like yourself that you're like, you know what, I want to make my own brand, I have just a ton of respect for that. And your brand is very niche. Like it's a, you know, nutrition products, supplements, but you're doing it with the motorcycle enthusiast, the bicycle enthusiast in mind. Kind of, I guess, take us as far back as you're able to with how this concept came about. Where you, I mean, obviously you're a fit guy. Did it come from that? And you're like, you know what, there's a need in the market. Where did this start?
You know what? It's really just it's something that was born out of combining the two things that I love the most on the planet. So I started racing from a pretty early age. You know, my parents never had the money to take me racing. They never had the money for a dirt bike or anything. So I started working from a very young age, and I started racing, kind of trying to pool money, working on weekends, whatever I had to do to get to a dirt bike race. And you know, it just, that kind of went over the years, and then I got hurt a couple of times. I blew some motors, and I was like, man, I don't know if this whole pro motocross rider thing is going to pan out for me. So I decided to go to school. And when I went to school, that's when I kind of took up fitness and got pretty involved in that. And so really this whole thing is just this this kind of brainchild of taking fitness, which I'm super, super passionate about. I've done a lot of competing. I've been involved in the supplement industry for a long, long time now, through all that. And then motocross, which has never left my life, and I've loved it more than anything. And it was really just a matter of, how do I combine these two passions that I have into something that I really truly want to do and I'm super passionate about? Because I mean, here's the thing with me, like, it's great that people can do it and want to do it, but for me, I always feel like, working 9 to 5 for somebody else, it always just felt a little weird to me. I always thought to myself, like, what can I do? How can I make my mark in the world? And so a couple years ago, I just kind of thought, again, how do I combine these two things and make something that I truly love? And where is there a market for that? And that's really where the iRide supplements concept even came to be. Like, I'll never forget sitting on my couch, staring out the window and thinking, you know what I should do? I should combine these two things and start this supplement brand. Like, why not? Let's give it a try. That's really how it all came about.
So what made you want to focus the supplement brand specifically in the moto space? Because I know a lot of, I mean, I have a couple friends that specifically have made $1 million businesses out of creating their own supplement brand, but it's for, it's for the fitness space. What kind of kept you from just simply chasing the money and kind of doing what is a more of an easily replicatable path and just creating another thing for a massive market? You went a different route and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go really niche. I'm going to go an inch wide to mile deep on this. What made you go that route?
That's a really good question, Luke. So, within my experience within the fitness industry, I learned that, so first of all, the market on that side of things is completely flooded. Supplement companies come and go. They're a dime a dozen in the fitness industry. And none of them really, honestly, are that much different than any of the other ones. They all have maybe some different packaging or something like that, but really, they're all kind of the same thing, which is why a lot of them start up and a lot of them fail. And there's a couple giants in that industry that kind of seem to run things. But aside from that, anyone that's starting out, it's a bit of a struggle. So I kind of wanted to stay away from that. And I also, believe it or not, it's kind of a weird thing, but I also kind of learned through all my competing and stuff in fitness that I didn't really want to be a part of that anymore. Like, there was so much ego and so much, politics and stuff that I just personally didn't like. I just felt like it was no longer about the athlete. It was no longer about someone having something that truly helps them get to where they want to go, right? And be the hero in their own story. It was more about, what can we sell to you? And that was really it. The bottom line was about the dollar. And I hated that. I hated the fact that it didn't matter if their claims were false. It didn't matter. All they cared about was, okay, you need to do X number of posts a day, and we don't care if you like the product or not.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember some of the bigger supplement companies, they would use my pictures and stuff in ads. And I remember telling them, I don't like your product. I don't want this. And they told me, we don't care. You're going to use it or else the deal's off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that really kind of turned me away from going that mainstream route with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I thought, well, then how can I be a positive side of this? How can I, take this idea and turn it into a direction that I want to go? And that's really where I kind of got into that niche, like you said, with the motocross and cycling side of things. Because here's the thing too, within, the moto industry and stuff, and there's a couple brands out there, but realistically for that demographic, it's all pretty new. A lot of the riders that I talk to now, they have no idea what any of it does, and they have no idea why it helps them. Whereas, on the flip side of things with the fitness industry, it's just so overflooded that it's craziness. And I would never start something in that industry as far as the supplements go. Whereas I like educating, this demographic with the cycling and the biking and stuff. They're new to it. They don't know how it helps them. And it really does. And it's cool to see the results of that, but also from my own ethical and moral standpoint of, this isn't about the money. This is about wanting riders to do better and helping them be the hero in their own story and helping them progress to a level that they want to achieve. So for me, it was kind of some experience in the past that pushed me away from that, but then also recognizing that, hey, in this space here, I can be positive. I can help riders get to where they want to get, just like I did, growing up and wanting to get better at racing and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's really kind of why I went that route.
It's interesting. There are a few brands that obviously provide nutrition supplements in the sport, but nothing like other sports. And I feel like it's still a really misunderstood tool that riders don't fully comprehend how to use it, when to use it. I mean, I've seen I've seen people at the track before taking a pre-workout supplement, like a normal pre-workout supplement. Not in my opinion, and look, I don't know all the science behind this, but pre-workout supplements help you get a pump. Well, you don't want to pump on a motorcycle or a
Right.
bicycle. So, how talk to me about, and I've seen on your site, you try to do some really good education around, just general training to how to incorporate your products. Talk to me about that educational piece that you see a need for specifically in this space.
Yeah, and you really just hit the nail on the head there. So particularly in this space, the educational portion is so important, because again, they're so new to it that they don't really understand what it does or how it works or any of that kind of stuff. So taking a standard pre-workout, for example, they're like, okay, well, this should give me energy. Well, it also may have things in it, like an arginine that increases your blood flow, but increases your blood flow in a way that might not assist you. So there's a huge educational piece for that, and that's really what I try to cover on a lot of stuff. Is I have all this knowledge built up over years of being in the industry, and for me, just being able to share that and again to say, hey, some of this is good, some of it's not, but you kind of need to know what's what, and I'm here to help you out with that.
Yeah.
Is definitely a huge piece to this for sure, is the educational part. So doing videos and trying to explain things to people is kind of how I've tried to tackle that a little bit, as time permits with videos and stuff, but definitely a huge part of it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we have Mitch Robinson from iRide Supplements on the show with us today. Really quick, want to tell you about some friends of the show, Michelin Bicycle Tires. You hear us talk about them every week. Randy Richardson, but have you checked out their bicycle tires? A lot of people don't know that Michelin got their start in 1891 by making the first detachable beaded bicycle tire. They still make some of the best products on the market today. The Wild series, the Michelin E-Wild tire for e-bikes, the Wild AM2, the Force AM2, even BMX tires. I mean, I got a set here recently. They're awesome. The Pilot SX, the Pilot SX Slick, just really, really great tires. Also, you heard me mention the subscription renewal promo going on for RacerX. If you do that, be sure to use our link at the Moto Marketing Podcast. The link is racerxonline.com/Moto Marketing. Also, RacerX, they always take care of us. They want to hook you up with a discount. Use the code MMP30, MMP30. You can save 30% on all FMF apparel upon checkout. We appreciate Little D and all those guys over there taking care of the listeners. Mitch, talk to us about your product lineup. Tell us a little bit about it, and then I'm curious to know, like, when you were developing these products out, why did you pick certain things to focus on? What made you develop the lineup that you developed? So to kind of take us through that journey.
Yeah, you bet. So for me, being a rider, being a racer, and and having to pound out those long motos, kind of using again that knowledge that I've had previously in fitness, I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. So for me, it was really important to include things that I know help with endurance and that kind of stuff, and get rid of stuff that's junk, that's either for lack of a better term might be considered a filler, or that other people might have issues with. So really the lineup is just born from me saying, okay, I know that this works. I know that riders can use this because I've used it and it helps me. So, for me to be able to go out and do like a 45-minute moto at near, 95% of my heart rate, people are like, how in the world do you do that? Well, sure, there's the training part of that, your fitness program and stuff like that. Of course, that's going to be a factor. But there are also things like this that I found help. So, for example, the protein in the green, so recovery. So, especially as, riders, they ride more and then they maybe crash here and there and your recovery slows down a little bit, especially as you age. That becomes a huge thing. So, especially for this demographic, they just don't understand that there are things out there that can really, really help you with recovery, specifically. So, the greens powder, people they're like, well, what is that even for? Well, it has all these vitamins and minerals and stuff in it that help deliver all the nutrients to help you recover. So if you're deficient in some of those things, which if you ride a lot, you will be deficient in some of them, it helps top everything up. So all those processes can take place in the background while you're hanging out at home on the couch or whatever and trying to recover. And then, like the BCAAs for hydration and endurance. Again, it just, for me, it's knowing what the function of that particular product is, knowing how it works, and then knowing that, okay, for riders, like just last night I went riding and I was sweating buckets while I was out there riding. So yeah, when you get off the track, you're going to be super dehydrated, right? Like acutely dehydrated. So for me, having a product that will grab onto that water and shove it into the cell a little quicker and rehydrate you quicker, that's a need to me. So really just the product lineup, it comes from being a rider and knowing what's expected at riding at a higher level. And then just kind of basing everything off that while using some of the science behind it to say, well, this isn't just an ancient Chinese herb that, may or may not do anything, but really it's probably not doing anything, to actually having science behind it to say, no, there are a ton of these studies to say that this is effective and this does work. So just kind of basing everything off that.
Yeah. I like how you explain it, because I think you talk about the science behind products, and I think that is a big mistake that a lot of nutrition brands, not just in this sport, but out of the sport, they try to flex that muscle and talk in a way that people are like, wow, those were big words and those things sound really important, but I have no idea what the hell any of it does. And I think with our community, with the moto community and even the cycling community, I don't think that resonates as well. So when,
Totally.
when a lot of brands will just start spewing all this science, but they don't put it in a way that I can understand. It's like what we do. I mean, what we do with web design and social media marketing and all these things. If I were to
Yep.
talk to you in the same way that my chief marketing officer thinks, and you're a client, you've gone through this process, you would be utterly lost.
Yeah,
I,
totally.
I feel like that's
Yep.
the same thing in your industry. Do you agree?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's, oh man, like I could go on about this for hours, Luke. So within the supplement industry, exactly that. They try and use all these fancy terms and all this stuff that nobody really understands, unless you're really into it and you're kind of a nerd like me about it. You may understand what they're talking about, but the average person doesn't get it. And I mean, you can look on. It takes 5 seconds on the internet to see that there is so much conflicting information about everything out there, and this works and that doesn't work. And then the next week, well, now it's flip flopped, and now this one works and this one doesn't work. And it's just crazy. So, even going way back to my fitness competition days, I really, really enjoyed explaining to people how things work and why they work, because I was one of those people that was so confused about everything that it drove me bananas. I mean, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what works, what doesn't work. So for me, I like being the source of, okay, I'm going to drill into this, and I want to see the numbers. I want to see the data to prove to me that this actually does something, because I don't want to sell hocus pocus. I don't want to sell hopes and dreams. So much of the fitness and supplement industry is based around magic beans. It honestly is. Like, this will have this effect on you. No, it won't. There's no data to support that. So I like being able to take that information that, like you say, a lot of the moto industry and stuff is like, I don't understand any of that. I like being able to take that and break that down into, okay, well, here's kind of how it works. And you can leave the real nerdy stuff up to me. I'm super into it. And your analogy, Luke, is perfect. Exactly that. Like, if you talk to me about some of the marketing stuff, I'm so lost. I don't even know what to do with myself. Right.
Right.
But then when you break it down for me, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get that now. Okay. That makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
So I kind of like being that source for people.
Yeah. And I want to use this, the story Mitch is kind of telling as an example. I've had some people reach out and they're like, hey, can you ask more specific questions about how to do this, that, or the other? And I want to kind of point out this as an example. When you're listening to this show, stories like what we're just going through, it's a great example for you to take a step back and be like, okay, am I am I confusing my customer with my marketing? You might be an engineer that develops a hard good, or maybe you're a gear manufacturer. This is still applicable to you. There's science that goes into there's science that goes into marketing and advertising. There's science that goes into helmet manufacturing and supplement and nutrition products. So making sure that you can go really deep because you understand that knowledge. But I always tell people, explain your product like you're talking to a middle schooler or a fifth grader. Explain it in a way that, we just had Jay Kavanaugh on talking about evoking emotion and telling a story about, hey, just imagine what it would be like when you are able to recover and go out the next day and hammer your motos because you're not so hammered from the day before, that it keeps you from doing so. So keep that in mind when you're listening to these, like pick out things that people like Mitch are saying. And how can you take a step back and audit what you're doing? Because I think that's a great example. It's not just the nutrition space, but nutrition space is really bad about that. I feel really confusing the customers. And that's something I noticed from day one with you is you talk to me like I'm talking to my gym buddy that knows I don't really understand it, but knows that I need it. That's how I feel like when I'm kind of talking to you about it. I've noticed you do a good bit of video, at least on your website. And I find that intriguing and well done because people get hung up on, well, I don't have that many followers on YouTube, so I'm just not going to do anything. And videos are a tool and you can use them in different ways. And, we just got done talking to AJ Catanzaro and he's got a massive following. So he uses that video tool in a different way. Mitch, you don't necessarily have a massive following yet, and you may not ever have the following that AJ does because you don't necessarily need that, but you still use video in more of a what I call like a video brochure. Somebody goes to your website. I hate reading. I definitely don't want to read about nutrition supplements.
Yeah, totally.
I would watch somebody that I feel can educate me on that nutrition supplement. And that's how you use those videos. So can you talk to us about the premise behind how you're using video production and why you kind of went that route with your website?
Yeah, totally. So you hit the nail on the head. So for me, first of all, I like doing video. I like editing videos. I like coming up with creative ideas for videos. I always have. So for me, it's it's not work. I just enjoy doing it. But really importantly too, I'm not a huge reader either. Like I'd rather listen to something or watch something. That's how I absorb information a lot faster.
Sure.
So for example, listening to your podcast, right? So while I'm spinning wrenches on my bike, I'll listen to your podcast and all that information just gets taken in, versus I'll never sit down to read it. So for me, just putting the videos on the site, it's just an easier way for people to grab that information because I feel like that's kind of the way that people are going now. I mean, I'm not a marketing pro by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel like that's kind of the new wave of the future. People want to absorb information that way, versus, or at least we're transitioning from reading to going to videos and stuff like that. So for me, that's the second point of, I think that's maybe a better way to get some information out. Certainly I like it that way. And then I think another good point is, I've really tried to look at what other people do and what they do well and what maybe isn't working quite as well. So, I mean, I'd be crazy not to go to other people's sites and to see what they're doing and give, wow, okay, I like how they did that, or I don't like how they did that, or whatever that may be. But then also look at people who have done extremely well and be like, what is it about their brand that people are really grabbing onto? So one of the things that I've noticed within this demographic in this industry, in comparison to some of the other brands, is a lot of the brands, they're leaving video on the table, man. Like they're not doing it. And I think that's a huge miss, especially with the generations as they come up. They want to see the videos. Like I'm forever having people come up to me now at the track or whatever, and they're like, dude, we love your videos and they're really informative and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like a breadcrumb to me to say, okay, this demographic, they're into this, man,
Yeah. It's a powerful tool. And I mean, I think the reading that people still do, you have people that enjoy reading a good book or they read their magazine, for example, RacerX, but my dad's much older. My dad's 74. My dad will read an instruction manual front to back. And I've learned like, okay, it's good for him. It keeps him sharp, whatever. But within 15 seconds, I've gotten on YouTube and I've learned what I needed to learn.
Yep.
where he's trying to read the instruction. So it's 100% it's that way. And with things that people don't understand, but they know they need, they're not going to necessarily, not everybody's going to read it. So the fact that you're doing these videos, and it puts a face to your brand, which I think is, and this, I don't know that this is something that we've talked to you about on a client level, but something that I really like about what you're doing is I've worked out since I was in sixth grade. I was a football player in high school. So I've been around the industry. I've been in sports, and I have this like cynical feeling towards nutrition supplements for the same reason you said at the beginning. It's they say that this person uses it, but they really don't. And it's like this
Yep.
really gross feeling. Seeing you as the owner and the creator of this product, as the face of the business, I get to know you, I can trust you, I like you, like I can put a face to it, and it doesn't feel fake, and it doesn't feel gross like so many of the traditional nutrition supplements that are in the fitness space do. You've got these roided out guys that this year
Yes.
they're saying this is how I got this big, but next year it's going to be something else. I feel like it humanizes your brand. I don't know if that's necessarily the most important thing in this sport, but there are people that are involved in lifting outside of moto that probably have that same feeling. And I think you kind of tear down that wall with your approach to it. So I think that's something else that we can learn from you, is trying to put some type of a face, whether it's the owner like yourself or somebody that people know and trust as a face that I can relate to and educate me on that product. And I think it's an awesome move. Um, what's next? Like, what are some things maybe you have in the works that you can talk about, or in your mind, what are some like big picture goals and ideas and plans that you have for yourself and for iRide supplements coming down the road?
Well, it's really kind of been a whirlwind, honestly. Yeah, like legitimately, when I kind of came up with this idea and I started to get into the product testing and all that kind of stuff, and I had lots of conversations where I'm like, man, I hope people buy something. You know what I mean? Like it was like, this just seems like a great idea to me, and I'm super passionate about it. But I don't know. There's part of me that was like, I know it works and I know there's a need for it, but I just hope that it ends up going well. And honestly, it's been kind of a whirlwind. I've had a lot of people hit me up, and so into the future here, the product's going to be available in all the local bike shops around here. So they've all kind of hit me up and said, we want to run your product in our shops, and so that's fantastic. And then on a bigger scale, nationally through Canada, sorry, it's available out in Ontario through a bunch of bike shops over there. And then in the works, we also have some revisions are being made so that it can all get done and sold through the US as well. So there's going to be another distributor down into the United States that's going to handle a bunch of that. So within the next 6 months or so, it's really going to flower and expand. So I'm really excited about that. And then of course, working with the impact marketing is huge. And that's something I think maybe some of the listeners can learn from my mistakes too. I'm a huge believer on, you need to educate yourself the best that you can about things, right? So for example, I'll listen to all the audiobooks I can get my hands on about marketing. I will, listen to your podcast. I'll watch videos about other people who know stuff about marketing, because I'm not a pro at it. But I also do think that there is a time when you need to recognize that maybe you need some help in that area. And I certainly have done that with the impact marketing. Like I've recognized that I need some help there. So learn what you can, but also learn when you need that help. And I'm certainly at that spot now. So it's exciting to see how that's going to work, because, I was really just throwing stuff at the wall to see if it would stick.
Sure.
Not really know what I was doing. And, you're not effectively using the money that you do have that way, which is not great. Right. So, learning the best you can, but also recognizing when you need help and reaching out for that help is definitely something that I've learned that's pretty important.
For sure. Yeah, we're excited to be working with you. So as we kind of wrap things up, I encourage people to go check out your site. I mean, just looking on here, just to give everybody a quick idea, you have a protein, you have a pre-workout mix, you have a branched chain amino acids, you have the greens powder, you've got something for everybody. And if people have questions about, well, what are BCAAs? Again, what I like about what you're doing is you explain them in a way that the rider can understand. I don't have to be a bro science person to
Totally.
get it. So what's the website is iRideSupplements.com. Anywhere else that we can follow you or any of your content to learn more?
Yeah, you bet. So just on Instagram, if anyone has any questions, by all means, you can either email me, support@iRideSupplements.com. I'll answer any questions you have 100%. Or on Instagram, we're at iRide_supplements. You can, again, DM us there. We'll get to any questions that you have. If it's a question that you have, it's probably a question other people have. So we can do some content for that as well as just Fit for Moto on Instagram. That's kind of my other brand that I do with motocross schools and stuff like that. If you want to hit that up, I can answer questions there as well. And then obviously on YouTube, we have the YouTube channel and stuff. Leave a comment on a video. Again, I'm all about sharing the information. Any question anyone has, even if you don't want any product, like I just want to share the information and truly and help riders get better as they go along. So however I can help, I'm there for you.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, and everybody, I appreciate you listening. If you're listening, be sure to check us out on YouTube. Here's a great example of why. Mitch has got an epic mustache that you just can't experience that through the podcast. So you got to listen, and then you got to come check it out. Mitch, I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to doing some cool stuff with you. And man, you're a good dude. I genuinely enjoy working with you and appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and looking forward to much more in the future.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is all mine, Luke. I truly appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to talk about this idea that I have, and I just look forward to working with you guys. I'm really, really excited about the future. It's crazy to me how this is all happening. Sometimes you just got to take a risk and see how things go, and it's been amazing. So I encourage other people to do the same. But a huge thank you to you and to RacerX for having me on, and
Awesome.
I'm excited about the future for sure.
That's my pleasure, man. I enjoy it and I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be catching up with you soon. And everybody, thank you for listening. And be sure to subscribe and leave a comment or review on iTunes or in the comment section for RacerX. They always appreciate that. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.